Hey, welcome, my Galactic brothers and sisters, and all there is in between. Appreciate you showing up. This is Electrical Theology, Esoteric Life Coaching, and it's a show that shares esoteric knowledge for the purpose of gaining enlightenment. How are we going to do this? By unfolding the moment. There is no past, futures, or none of this stuff. I understand that on the linear perspective, but from the galactic perspective, everything's happening on this world all at one time. Everything's unfolding at one time. And we're going to unfold these moments with an undefended heart. And how do we do that? By taking responsibilities for our thoughts, our actions, and emotions. And because this is electrical theology, I am in essence, I call myself a galactic pastor. Or a soul mechanic, but soul mechanic, I've had it for about 30 years, and then other people started using the name. And sort of talking the same thing, so I've sort of faded or phased out that name, even though it's in all my books that I've written. Well, that's one of them, but it's more electrical theology because it is, my beginning stages was as a soul mechanic and a soul chemist and a soul electrician. And then through the realms of expanding consciousness, through the secret grid we've talked about in earlier videos. If you haven't seen those, go back and watch those videos, because today is actually a pretty milestone for me, and this is the 50th video on the electrical theology. I've had other videos on esoteric cryptocurrencies and stuff, and understanding that cryptocurrency is just part of the new consciousness. It's sort of the first expression, Bitcoin and all that, is an expression of the new money, if you will, that comes into this new electrical perspective, or this higher frequency we're moving into as humans. And everyone has equal opportunity to move into this higher realm, this different frequency, but you don't have to. It just means that some of your friends, families, and whatnot who do expand to the higher frequencies, and that means doing your work, taking responsibility for your thoughts, actions, and emotions, and being undefended with the heart, and being open, operating from the heart in association with the mind. And if you are doing this, then you will all sort of expand together. And if not, then there's going to be a disconnect between you and them, or somebody who doesn't decide to upgrade. Again, you can upgrade to gas, you can upgrade to electric cars. Some of your friends will get sort of Tesla or an iPhone from a Galaxy phone, whatever. People sort of have their identities with these phones or this technology. And some reason in this divided world, we want to say, oh, these people who buy apples are rich, and those who can't afford an apple, they're poor. I mean, it's just divisional thinking like that is going to happen more and more because of the people who choose to upgrade and those who don't. And so even friends from 30, 40 years ago, and if you upgrade and they don't, let's say y'all used to be good partying buddies, and then your partying buddy says, nah, I'm going to keep partying. You're like, well, I'm going to take a different path. And it doesn't mean that you have to dislike each other. It just means you're going to be on a different path. So if you try to come to that party buddy and explain to him what you're doing, they're not going to be interested. They don't give a crap about it. In the same way that you're not going to be interested in how many parties they just went to. Does that make sense? So it's neither good nor bad. It's just there's a new ship coming in, and you can hop on this new ship, gain some new information, new perspectives, or don't. It's not a bad or good thing. Right? But for those who are choosing, because the seas are rising, but not in the sense of global change or nothing like that. When the ice age, the final end of that, seas rose 100 and something feet. It's just part of the gigantic cycle that you, me, or no one on this planet has any full information about. So most anything that goes with some divisional narrative, it's just to side you with one or the other. They're going to side you that those who believe in global change and those who don't, or global warming or global cooling. Everyone's got their narrative and their purpose and their agendas to why they want that narrative to run. Part of it is to divide you, though. And the more you're divided, the easier it is to conquer you. Make sense? Bringing you the topic of gratitude, but I'm going to bring it to you in an expanded esoteric way. Again, not better or worse, just a different expanded version of gratitude and why it's highly important going forward with this information and choosing to open up and unfold that heart, take responsibility, all that good stuff. It's going to entail you having more gratitude because when change comes, you may perceive it as bad or good or divisional, right? Or you'll get into a depressive state or anxiety, whatever this may be. But by having and understanding gratitude from this perspective I'm going to present you with, right, I think you'll understand and be more aware of why it's important to expand your version of your current gratitude. Right, so let's get into it. So what I want you to do right now is I want you to just envision a tomato. Yes, just a tomato, have a big, red, juicy, green, however you need to see this tomato. I want you to focus on this tomato for a moment. Right, I want you to imagine you cutting it up and eating it on a salad, a hamburger, whatever. Right? And now I want you to ponder for a moment. And this will be a long moment because I'm going to take you through a series of steps that took that tomato to get to you on that plate and then eventually into your system and become a part of you. So imagine this tomato. We're going to reverse engineer it, if you will. And we're going to go into when that tomato first came to be. And again, keep parallel with what I'm saying about gratitude. And we'll sort of conclude this with understanding it from the perspective of gratitude, but be the most you can right now being open. Right? Open that heart, unfold the moment, and listen. And so where did this tomato come from? Well, let's take our brain back to the farm, right? Or wherever this tomato grew. We'll just use farm for right now. So from this farm, the tomato started growing, but before the tomato grew, where did it come from? Well, we can say the seed. That's fine. And then where did the seed come from? From the tomato. So now we're sort of hooked into this tomato seed, chicken and egg philosophy or theory, right? And we're not necessarily looking for an answer here. We're just understanding that before the tomato became, it was a seed, and before the seed became something, it was something. So we're going to get into how all the steps, if you will, that it took that tomato to become. So from the ground, we just go from the seed. Now, how did that seed grow into a tomato? Well, it needed all the elements, fire, water, earth, and air. Right, just to be basic. Yes, there's underlying unseen processes that us humans aren't necessarily aware of or can explain, but we see the evidence of that in the full tomato. As this tomato grows, I want you to think of how on this farm that's growing many millions of tomatoes, who's farming these tomatoes? So let's go into the machinery first. Right? If there's plows, tractors, okay, let's break each one of those down. How did the tractor come to be? Right? We can go all the way back to someone had an idea. They had an idea of a tractor, so they built the tractor over time and years and whatnot until the tractor came to be. Now, what's all included in that tractor? How many people were involved to make that tractor? The blades, the machine, the motor, the belts, right? And we can break that down so far, but we're not going to. We're just getting an idea of the gist of where this tomato came from. So same way with the tractor. The tractor came from somewhere. And all the other pieces of machinery, from pumps to pump the water, from the clouds that drop the rain, the sun that grows the tomatoes, each one of these have their system, right? Each one of these have a origin, a particle origin. And we talk about the origins in this Shambhala hierarchy in God. And each one of these have an origin. They have an expansion from another expansion. They grow and expand. So this tomato, let's get back to the tomato. Now let's get with the people picking the tomatoes, or even doing the farming, the tilling, right? The weeding, all this type of stuff. We can talk about pesticides, whatever, or natural ways. We can talk about the bees and the other bugs that help protect the other insects from eating it, or we can talk about pesticides. It doesn't matter. We just want to understand that there's a process that's keeping the bugs off, right? And then there's other bugs that help pollinate, the bees and whatnot. We can talk about the bees and their whole origin, right? All this is part of a construct, right? A huge construct that's making this tomato to become. And so now we talk about the people, the labor. To do the labor takes a unique skilled individual. And some of y'all may have a difference of opinion, but I would trade any of you to go out there and work those fields for 12, 18, 16 hours a day, bent over, right? Picking this tomato, growing the tomato, all that good stuff. Right? Trade with any of those people and do that for a season, and let me see how skilled you are, or not, or have the will to do this. Right? Then they have their reasons and their families. Right? So now let's say this fire, water, earth, and air, the sun, the water, all that good stuff came together, and now the tomato's grown. Now we're just beginning the process of understanding what happens to the tomato. Now again, we have trucks, the machinery, the trucks come and pick the tomatoes up. Now we can talk about all the people and hundreds of thousands of people that it goes into making that truck and maintaining that truck, and the people who created the parts and the bolts and the wheels and the rubber and all those machineries that went into making the part for that truck. Right? Now the tomatoes are on the truck. Now the tomatoes go to a factory. Right? Now this factory has, and it's built, and it took thousands of people to build this factory. Right? It took machine, it took fire, water, earth, and air, more fire, water, earth, and air to build these factories, electricity, water pumps, and the rivers, the aqueducts that bring up the water. Right? We can talk about all the people who tapped into that. And then we can talk about the people who got injured on that job. We can talk about the people who died in the field and how that affected their families. Extreme conditions these people worked under, or maybe the people who were their bosses. Were they nice? Were they compassionate? Right? Now we go to the factory, and the same thing is that all these people, right? Were they nice people? Were they mean people? Right? Were they injured? Right? So all these employees, all these workers, these illegal aliens in one sense, or other domestic help, went in there and helped get those tomatoes clean. Now you have another truck that takes them to the grocery store. Now let's go for a moment in the vastness of the grocery store and how that whole operation even works. Right? You got vendors, you got employees, baggers, register, managers. Right? Each one of these people have a system connected to them, family, right, in their lives. And then from that store, that grocery store, and all the millions of energy and electricity and water and air that creates these to keep maintaining, to get that tomato to you, right? We can have restaurants, right? Or you go to that grocery store, you see the tomatoes for $2 or whatever that may be, whatever style tomato you want. You know, and without thinking, you're like, wow, this tomato is really expensive. Last year they were $1 something. But again, we got to think of how all the mechanisms that it took to get that tomato there that you're about to take home and eat. Right? So when you are about to eat that tomato, I want you to understand right now that you are the tomato. I know it sounds funny, right? But you're the tomato. How did you come to be? How many thousands of people have been part of your existence? I'm not even talking just earth. I'm talking about cosmic, spiritual. From the original particle, from that, how that turned into this, and that, and this turned into Shambhala, and the organization, the etherical, the astral. Right? All these systems, the esoteric, all these unforeseen or unseen events that took place. So you don't even have to subscribe to that, how you came to be and what you are. It took millions and millions of, and thousands and millions of years, and people and particles. You are part of a system that you came to be, and you are here. And you're being of service, just like that tomato was being of service to you, and how many millions of hours that it took to get that tomato to you. And just think of how many millions of years of evolution, of creation, and particles, and atoms, and muons, leptons, and all quarks, and everything that man's describing as a energy. and how that energy even came to be it through evolution or creation, whatever your version is. But something brought it all together. So everything you have in your life, from your cars, your machinery, your house, your roof, money, right? All that's happening right now in the unfolding moment. And you are a part of that, right? So step back for a moment and be grateful. Have gratitude that it's taken millions of beings and cosmic intelligence and earth-based evolution to help you become you. You are here because there's 1,000 million pieces and particles that came to create you. So when you think life gets tough because you're going through a transition and you're choosing to upgrade, you may have to leave some friends or relationships or go through some financial hard times. I want you to imagine for a moment that you don't know everything and that you don't understand the unseen process that's happening because you're choosing to upgrade. So you should have no reason to have animosity toward the process. If anything, you should be even more grateful than you were before, because now your mind's beginning to open up to thousands of these atoms, be them people or cars or grass or sun or moon, whatever. There's millions and thousands, millions and millions of particles, billions of particles are coming together to create your existence. So I want you to take that and begin to serve others, just like the tomato. Right? Be life for somebody else. Right? Quit being a whiner. Right? I think it was Roosevelt or one of them said that if you talk about a problem without a solution, you're just a whiner. Again, I'm paraphrasing it, but I'm pretty sure it was Roosevelt. Someone can make a comment below and let me know if that was correct or not. But if you have a right to whine because things are tough, great. Open up to your gratitude, and through that opening, it's going to open a veil. And we'll talk about this veil later in different videos. But in this veil, it's going to open you up and see the possibilities. Right? And we're going to call this the realm of possibilities. And it literally is, it's going to show you all your possibilities. But we'll get into that at another time. But hopefully today that's making sense to you. That this is my 50th sermon, if you will. And I thought it'd be perfect that it's about gratitude, because I'm grateful for each and every one of you for keep tuning in. I'm not looking for massive millions right now, because I'm still building myself and understanding this new transition in the way I'm presenting my information. I've done it for 40-something years. I've studied the esoteric, the supernatural, religion, mythologies, folklore, aliens, anything that you can imagine. I've studied since I was a kid. And as you can tell, I'm pretty ancient now. So, going forward, we're going to then, with everything that we go into, we have to start with that deep, conscious breath of gratitude. All right? So like, subscribe, all this good stuff. If this was helpful for you today to take a deeper look into yourself, because that's what we're into, is the esoteric, which is the deep within. And so I hopefully you are able to see yourself at a deeper level today. And if so, again, like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I look forward to seeing you again. Thanks.